Hello, hello. Okay, I'm going to move some lighting here. Let me make sure that we've got sound too. There's my echo, so I know we do. All right, do I like this light? Do I like this light? Do I want to angle? Yeah, okay. I'm going to give it a moment or two to let anyone who's going to join on, join on. And there we go. There we go. Should have brought my Kleenex. The energies are moving. Okay, welcome, and happy Friday to everyone who is tuning in on the actual day of the live. I hope everyone is keeping really well and doing good. I know it's a very tender and sensitive time right now, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the astrology today so that we can kind of get a vibe in with that. The readings, however, that I do later in the session are going to be timeless, meaning they're not tied to anyone having to hear them the exact day of the live. So I definitely, whenever you find this video, I definitely encourage you to just sit with the tune in portion. Everything will be time stamped. There'll be a tune in portion where I will talk through the breakout sessions and which each one is going to be, and you can use your own intuition to determine which one's standing out to you the most. You can skip to that timestamp, which makes it really handy for you because I know everybody has very busy lives, right? So wow, there's just so much in the energy field. It's been difficult, and even for me who works in energy a lot of the time, it's been really difficult. There's been a need to ensure that protections are in place, that we're protecting ourselves properly. I've talked about it before. I prefer the circle of the magician as a protection mechanism, but you may have other tools you use as well. But I would say, take some time when you hop on this video, maybe even if you're watching the replay, give it a pause and set up a quick energetic protection for yourself. Sometimes I like to do my protections in the shower because I'm a water sign. My soul spark, my Saturn are in Cancer. My North Node's in Scorpio, and I really prefer to have the water amplifying whatever it is I'm doing. So I do a lot of shower rituals in addition to shampooing and conditioner and all of that. So, keep that in mind. You can get clever in our busy lives. We have to get clever about how we do these protections and protect our own energy for ourselves. But we can sometimes do that really quickly, right? It doesn't have to be something where we do a big drawn out ritual. It can be, and those are quite powerful and sometimes longer lasting, but you can also set up protections really quickly. So just make sure that you're doing that if you get that chance, okay? Or you're feeling like maybe some of the energies that are floating around collectively are getting to you a little bit. Hello, Jen. Welcome. It's good to see you here. Thank you for joining today. Okay, so I wanted to talk about, and I think I'm going to put this as part of the collective message. So, at the time of this live, we have Neptune aligning with the true node of the moon, and the moon's north node is in Pisces. So, there is a conjunction in Pisces right now with Neptune and the node of the moon. And this is where these two celestial bodies meet in the same sign. That's what a conjunction is. And really, when I was looking up the energy of the day and reading about this, because even though we're still in Aquarius season, the Piscean energy has been quite strong. And I have checked in with some of my other fellow intuitives and some of my clients, and there are a lot of emotional energies I can confirm. So if you find yourself crying or just feeling more sensitive or emotional than usual, you probably just as within, as without, you're tuned in to these energies as above, as below, right? And Jen says this is by your ascendant. Yeah. And that's an important point. If you have access to your chart, hi, Kimberly, be sure to check out this where this conjunction might be close to some of your other placements, your personal placements, I mean. So, yeah, check that out. There's a big energy here of trusting in the larger plan of what's going on. So, right now, if you're like me, you're feeling these energies and you're like, man, like I'm not feeling the momentum. I'm not feeling the go forward kind of feeling, but I'm moving forward through it anyway as best I can. Some of you may feel like maybe in more of a pause or the winter time kind of feeling, like especially in the northern hemisphere here, the days are still quite short, and so you can feel like you just woke up and the day got away from you and it's already dark. But I would encourage you to maybe blend in some special rituals or moments with yourself during the evening time when it gets dark. And I think we can maximize that energy. But getting back to this Neptune and the moon, see, and this is why I think we can maximize this energy. I think during doing some of our rituals at night, so it's dark, you're getting tired. Instead of maybe flicking on the TV, I know not all of you watch TV, which is great. I'm glad for those of you who are like, oh, I never, and that's awesome. I don't watch a lot of TV either. But even if you're just on like social media or on your phone, right, you're still going to get all the news, right? So just clicking off your phone and having some time when it's dark. We've got Neptune and the moon in this conjunction today. So tonight, when it gets dark, just spending a little time, even just like 10 minutes with yourself, just to feel into the actual season of winter, the darkness, and maybe have a little moment to see what the darkness can reveal, because somewhere in there is this energy, this Piscean energy of trusting in the larger plan, of allowing the water to carry us, allowing maybe some of our emotions to guide us through a part that needs to be healed, perhaps. And it really comes back to getting real with yourself when we think about Neptune also being the Piscean planet and very watery and very at times very mysterious, right? And maybe um pulling in on some of those emotions. When they come up during a time like this, they're likely our most potent emotions that are coming up. So whether it's grief or sorrow or anger or frustration or whatever it is, just being really honest with yourself. That's the first step, acknowledging these emotional energies that come up when you're feeling a certain way, and sometimes it can be a little hard to put your finger on exactly what that is. But Neptune, and Neptune has that tendency. It can be a planet that is tied up into illusions, right? And so getting real with yourself, especially how it pertains to your emotions, is going to be really important during today and during this window when we have this conjunction happening. So we've got definitely got the Piscean vibes going in the collective. The emotions are definitely online. You're likely picking up and feeling sensitive to quite a few of these things. So I just wanted to talk about that. And I want to pull a couple cards here for the collective for these Piscean energies because I think that they're important. And even though we might want to, not go into that darkness because we're ready for spring, we're ready for the sun, we're ready for the warm weather, we're ready for all that. There are things that must be revealed during this dark time, and it has to do with depth of emotional energies. So we're going to pull a card here for the collective from the Sacred Geometry Activations Oracle. More intensity of emotions. Yes, absolutely, Kimberly. That is exactly aligned with what's happening in the cosmos. So, we have to remember that even when we're having these powerful pulls, especially emotionally, when these more emotional astrological transitions are happening, the more you're feeling it, the more you're tuned in, the more you're actually tuned in to the natural vibration, the waxing and waning of the energies in the universe here. So that's why I said the illusional part, right? The illusions. There's going to be people that you're watching or observing, and they appear to be just fine. And that is likely because they're running on some other, maybe non organic, non cosmic program that has them in kind of the ignorance is bliss kind of vibe, right? So that could definitely be what you might be observing in others. And just like, what's that guy's name in the Matrix? Oh, anyway, the guy that he gets out of the Matrix and escapes it, and then he wants to go back in, and he says, why, oh, why didn't I take the blue pill? There can be a little bit of that energy because you're like, well, it would just be easier if I didn't feel this so intensely. But then also you wouldn't be you, and you wouldn't be at the evolutionary part in your journey that you're at. So this is a powerful indicator that you are right in line with the natural rhythms of the cosmos here if you're feeling this intensity of emotions. So let yourself cry today. Let it be. Okay. Very interesting. So we're getting a little bit of, and I think this is a bit of promising energy here. I have just talked about the importance of the dark and the winter energies and everything. But then we get the number 42 card, and it's the tantric journey. And I'll read what it says and then we'll talk about it and I'll show you the image. It says the frequency of the tantric journey helps us to unlock the hidden knowledge and wisdom that we intrinsically hold about how to reach a state of wholeness and completion through our sensual experiences with ourselves and with another. Okay, so oftentimes when we're discussing the tantric journey, there's people doing all kinds of tantric schools and medicine alongside this topic. But in this particular reference, I am really feeling today, aligned with the energies of today, this has to do with trusting in the greater plan. The warmth is coming back. Anytime I get this card, I would say a synonym for this card would be sensuality, right? And that's a Taurus energy. And Taurus energy starts in May, late April, May. All right. And so this is the promise that things are going to get warmer. Things are going to warm up for us. We're possibly going to feel a little bit better in our physical bodies. We have to trust that there's a greater plan, though, and we have to allow for this period of shadow and dark to reveal something to us. It's also a great time to get past your own illusions, right? And give you a little inspiration to move you in that direction. And one of the little affirmations that one of my mentors said once, it was, I only want what is real. I only want what is real. Basically, in your experience, in your journey, you only want what is real, right? Because there are a lot of illusions flying around out there. There's a lot of brainwashing, mind control. Oh my gosh, just so much going on, right? Theft, all kinds of things, right? Scams, all of those veils of illusion, all of those traps, they really are traps for the soul. They really are traps for the soul. So the more we can go with the natural rhythms, and I think we just passed Imbolc, right? The halfway point between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. This is the promise of the warmth coming through. So we just have to trust and we just have to allow ourselves to go through this pause where we're trying to move forward, but maybe it doesn't feel like we have a lot of momentum quite yet. But as I said, with this Neptune and North Node of the Moon conjunction, it is trusting in the greater plan. There's more that's happening here. And so, if we can surrender into some of this darkness and winter energy, knowing that the promise of the warmth, it's kind of like that the sun will come out tomorrow. And we wish it was now, right? Why not now? But it's coming and we are moving toward it. But we also would like to honor our whole journey. We don't want to leave parts of our soul journey and our evolution out. So, knowing that this is coming, but being with the darkness, that's perfectly okay. And that's what the collective needs to remember right now, especially those of you in the collective who are in the place in your evolution where you have broken through some of those veils of illusion to the degree that, hey, you're here listening to this type of channel, right? And channels like this, or you're tuning into those kind of energies, or you have these practices and gifts yourself that are coming to the surface and that you are utilizing, even if you're not utilizing it in a very public way, right? That could be coming up for some of you. In fact, now that voice in the collective here for this reading is starting to become a little stronger. Yes, I have this ability to do that. And anytime I get around people, this happens, right? And it has sort of that emotional, mystical quality to it. Definitely begin, or continue pulling back the layers on that because there may be something in that for you. And it doesn't have to look, do not get stuck on it looking any certain way or being any certain way because it is a natural gift, talent, and ability that's going to come forth in the way that it wants to as you acknowledge it. Now, we got also for the collective here, number 19, creating personal space. And so, yeah, there may be the need here to detach a bit from crowded areas if you can. I know this can be really tough if you're in like a busy workspace at times or something like that, but you can, when you're unable to create the physical space, personal space, like this is my zone, that's your zone, don't come in here. um, when you're struggling to do that physically, always remember you can still do this energetically. And best case scenario, you're able to get out in nature. I think, Jen, you mentioned this on one of the other lives, or recently when I was talking to you about how you can just drive your car to like the nature preserve or the lake or the river, and you can just observe, from your car. If it's too cold, you can keep the heat running. Like I said, I keep feeling the numbers like 10, 9 and 10. I think the numerology of today is a 9, but we have this 19, 1 plus 9 is 10. 10 minutes, 9 to 10 minutes of just, consciously tuning into these energies and creating a little bit of that space. And that can also be energetically from particular people. So for some of you that may tune into this, whether live or the replay, there may be certain people that you need to create a little personal space from. Okay, there may be a certain storyline that you need to create some personal space from. And I think today's energies are such that if you take a little time, you'll know what this is. If you take a little time in that darkness, something is going to be illuminated for you. So, not everyone has the issue of they have to create space from someone. Maybe it's just honoring the self as well, right? But you would know if you need to create space from someone, the first person that popped in your head, the first inkling you got, the first vision you had when I said that, that would be, even if it's somebody you love, we need to let it be okay for us to have personal space from people that we love at times, right? Sometimes it's just about us getting our energy in a more pristine state, uh, in a state where we can really hear our own internal guidance system. So it's very interesting that, during this winter time and during this period of dark and these Neptune Pisces energies, that creating personal spaces come up, because this means we have to get really comfortable being with ourselves, being able to be with ourselves, being able to be in solitude at times, or energetically distancing as needed. And I really am struck by I get the very native indigenous feeling from this card, and feel like for some of you, this has to do with roaming outdoors, with just roaming. So going to a safe space, maybe someplace you're familiar with, but just allow your body to carry you and roam. I get very much like that roaming feeling, and possibly even if you're in a place or there's a preserve nearby that has, animals where you can watch or view animals kind of roaming. So I know there's some places that have those drive-through kind of places, and just, connecting in with those energies. I don't, necessarily support zoos and all that kind of stuff. I have very mixed feelings about all of that. But getting in nature could even be with birds, squirrels, right? What's common in your area, and just roaming. It could be taking a walk around your neighborhood, just roaming, and what do you see? Of course, do this safely. Of course, make sure you have safety measures in place and that you're not just aimlessly, wandering with, no clue. Remember, I said protection is important right now, but some very, mindful roaming, right? And giving yourself that space in that manner. Okay, I want to get one more card here for the collective. I'm going to use the Herb Crafters Tarot. I felt called to pull this out. Also, for some of you, you might find some solace and some interest in playing with like dried herbs or like dried fruits. In the time where we were more connected with nature, there would be things like canning and fermenting and drying of fruits and herbs and things so that we could use them over winter. So some of you may be particularly interested in that. And I'll tell you guys a funny story. So, you may or may not know, but recently TikTok went off for a minute. It went down, and, the big hubbub about it. And during that, a lot of people started moving over to the Chinese version of TikTok, Red Note, which is fascinating. It's very much like TikTok, except some of the things are in Chinese or Mandarin, and it's, difficult to kind of navigate it from that perspective, but it's very much like a mirror. of how TikTok is. And so I popped over there and I found it to be a really good immersive learning environment for learning about another culture and everything. And one of the things, because I like tea, and I must have, it asks about your preferences and what you like. And I probably put like food and tea or something like that. I don't know. I selected something. And the way that they make these teas in China, and like, so there's homesteaders from that were on TikTok from the States that are getting a hold of the ingredients that the Chinese tea makers have been showing them what to do, and they're learning how to make tea. And a lot of it is like they literally take like goji berries and langum. I had Langdon berries. Somebody correct me. I'm learning too. And ginger, and but instead of like buying it in a package, they're and I mean, you might have to buy the goji. I get it. You have to buy the goji berries, but you know what I mean. The ginger you buy fresh and you cut it, and then you're just pouring your hot water over those herbs. And so there's a lot of people in the States are learning how to make new tea, and it's Chinese medicine. It's much healthier, and the dates, they use the dates in there too. They just pop it in there. They pop the dates in there. Yeah, it's yeah, and it I was like, okay, I saved a couple of them so I could go back and learn how to make that recipe. But some of you might be dabbling in that. Ooh, and I really, oh, I like this card. I like this card for us. It might be because we have, during the live, we have two empresses on here, but we got the Empress, the Rose card. And so this really has me thinking about being closer to your heart space and closer to the interactions in your heart. Now, this I would say of all the cards I could have pulled from the deck too, could be a little bit, and I hate to go here, but it's a Hallmark holiday, the Valentine's Day. This feels very Valentine-y, right? But if we can take it back to a more organic kind of take on this, this is getting, very intimate in yourself. This is that personal space. The Empress has her personal space in the Garden of Eden, right? And she is very sensual. She is very open to that warming part of the journey. And this, to me, with all the red here, really would be the card that I feel like grounds us into this energy and takes us right to the root of things. And the Empress, of course, has a lot to do with self care and self love. And in this card, it is so interesting. We have a heart shaped honeycomb. So that's like a honeycomb that's in the shape of a heart. And that's how the artist has depicted things here. We have what appeared to be down here. At first, I thought, because we deal with pomegranates a lot in the tarot, but I think we might have some little cherry tomatoes here. And then we have those little, are they called like Anche chilies, or those red chilies? I love this deck. This is why I wanted to use this, because every time I use it, I get closer and closer to the images and what's being depicted here. We've got a lot going on in this card, and it feels like very much an honoring of that energy where we can be in solitude. It's the honoring the energy of, yes, we might be in the darkness right now, but we're opening up to the warmth. There may be some, this could also encourage you to do some yoga positions or something that would feel very opening to you, particularly like the heart opening yoga poses might be helpful right now, or just some gentle stretching that encourages the chest and the heart to open up here. And honestly, instead of like the whole Valentine charade, right? Let's think about this as a reminder for loving ourselves. And when we love ourselves and we take the time to really be with ourselves, we attract in that love from others, whether that be family, friendships, our fur babies, and really getting close in with that energy and letting it be sweet with that honeycomb sweet. And how can we sweeten our lives? Maybe it's time to take ourselves on a date and be with ourselves a little bit, treat ourselves to that delicious tea that we wanted to make, or maybe we take ourselves out for a healthy lunch or something like that. Some way to treat yourself and really ground it in with the red and the root coming up here, really grounding it into reality here with this Empress card. So what a beautiful depiction of the Empress. I love that. I feel like it is very complimentary to creating your own space and taking up space. Remember, that's one of the things we've talked about, is especially for the women out there, allowing yourself to take up space, because we are connected to the womb energy. And the womb, remember, when we're pregnant, whether with a physical baby or with ideas and creativity, it expands, right? So I'm definitely getting that feeling too. As we expand into spring, we're going to be expanding in other ways. So what better way to ground in the energies than that self-care, that self-love, and really going into that, rooting it into our experience here. Okay. So we'll roll through the cards of the collective. We had Tantric Journey. We had Creating Personal Space, all very stunning and different cards here. And then we had our Empress, the Rose, the number 3 card. Okay. All right. So we're going to transition now into the breakout readings. And I always like to do a tune in so people can figure out which of the breakout readings will I resonate with the most, or I might like the sound of all of them. I know some people just like to listen the whole way through. That's beautiful. But if you're in a crunch for time, but you would like to receive a message, the breakout sessions today are going to be 3 different parts. We're going to do compassion, humility, and trust. So trust has come up, right? And I've already kind of talked about that one. So these energies are what presented themselves when I tuned into the astrological energies of today. And so that's where we want to go with it. Now, I'm going to, in order for you to tune in intuitively and figure out which of the breakout readings are probably is calling to you the most, I wanted to talk about the etymology of the words, because I think in studying etymology and understanding where the words originated from, and usually it's a progression of the word. It showed up here and then it showed up in another area and then another version of it here, right? And we've got Latin and we've got the Germanic languages, we've got Old French, we've got Norse, we've got all kinds of languages going on. I just think it's a wonderful way. So as I'm talking through this, really you may even want to close your eyes and feel into the vibe of the words, the vibration and the meaning behind the etymology. So the first one, compassion. So compassion comes from the Latin compati or compati, and it means to suffer with. Blaze is barking because my mom's here to hang out with the kids. So, little compassion for Blaze and his alert awareness that he does. And it also, compate, suffer with, it can also, another meaning is that which must be endured. That which must be endured. Now, when you think about synonyms of compassion, we could be talking about empathy, sympathy, those kinds of things. And we can have that compassion for ourselves or for others. And when this energy, when we think about suffer with, that doesn't sound very good, right? No one wants to suffer. But like the darkness and the light, the suffering and the thriving are 2 angles which we can work with, and they're the way that we learn and expand. And to To suffer is then to be able to come back into a state of thriving, and a healed state of thriving, right? And to thrive is to know suffering, and to know suffering is to thrive. You get it, right? But there are like shadow aspects to this too. There is that point, especially for those of you who are very empathic people, where that compassion can, you can begin to actually energetically take on someone else's suffering at times. And then if that person happens to be in more illusionary energies, like I talked about in the introduction, like this Pisces Neptune illusion kind of thing, they could really be in more of the darker energies. And that's something that their soul agreed to go on, and that have that kind of journey. And you will see that in the way they present themselves archetypally. So you may see them, they're very poor me. Um, when you're talking to them, the conversation rotates back to them somehow, even if you're trying to share something vulnerable from yourself, from yourself, heart to heart, to them. It's somehow the only thing they can do, and the only thing they ever respond with is their own story, right? It can come out that way. And so the attention is always on them. And that's just because they have something in them that's unhealed, and they're unable to hold or provide that space. You also see this in people who get stuck. And the reason I say get stuck is because at times we have been victimized for real. Okay. In fact, the collective condition right now, there's quite a bit of victimization of humans going on in the planet, right? There's theft, coercion, all kinds of stuff going on out there, right? The way everything is set up, the way the system itself is set up, right? So in no way, shape, or form here am I saying at one point or another, or collectively, are we not victims to certain energies, right? We are. However, the victim mentality that I'm talking about is the one where people get stuck. They get stuck there because there's unresolved emotions connected to whatever the situation or person that victimized them was, right? And so collectively, on some level, we're all trying to navigate this and break through this, right? So there's freedom, and then there's freedom, if you all know what I mean, right? There's real freedom, and then there's like fake freedom, right? Okay, so person gets stuck in that victim mentality. There's undealt with, unprocessed emotions swirling around in there, and it literally becomes like a merry-go-round. And if they stay in it and stay in it for years, which I know some of you have had encounters with people who do this, it's a very disempowered state, very disempowered state. Natural to be in when you've been victimized, but the idea then is that we do some healing, we address the emotions, and we rise up out of, right, this victim mode, right? That can be disempowering, because the events and the situations that happen to us were disempowering. A lot of times people were younger, they were children, they had no control, no power in the situation, right? And so it's quite a journey to gain your power back. And so we're going to have compassion and empathy for that. But when someone gets to a point, and the reason I'm saying this is because I have a lot of empaths that watch this channel, a lot of sensitive people. If they get to the point that they're unable or unwilling to come out of that mode, they begin to have an energy that's like a black hole, and it will like suck you in and carry you away right into that whole story until you become a part of that and can't find your own way out of it, right? So we do have to be careful as healers and doing therapy and things like that, that we have the proper boundaries in place. And compassion, while it is defined as suffering with, it does not mean that we have to give in to that we can't let that other person have their time of suffering, that we can't hold space for them, right? I really like the definition better of that which must be endured, because that to me speaks more to, this is something about life. This is a lesson that must be endured. There, on some level, this has to be acknowledged as real, as something that happened, as let me feel my emotions about it and let me endure through it, right? Through and take the journey of endurance, like enduring my way out of it so that I can reclaim my power. It really is about, are you going to choose to stay disempowered, or are you going to maybe walk the harder path of healing and emotional intensity, which Neptune and Pisces and the alignments today play into, to get to that place where you're empowered again, right? And so we're going to get into that in the compassion reading. So it's also about compassion for yourself, those parts of yourself that have been victimized in the past by someone or something, right? And having compassion there when you're responding out of a disempowered state. We've all done it. We've all found ourselves in those places, right? Perhaps some of us have been the ones that were unable to hold healthy conversations with other people because we turned it back about us. There's the natural curiosity about people and the desire to connect in a way that when they share their story, we want to share ours because, oh my gosh, I can relate to you, right? And then there's that fine line where a person who's in the perpetual victim mode, that it's always about them, always, because it hasn't been dealt with. But typically, empaths will find themselves sometimes in this dynamic. And most empaths have already gone through their own suffering and are aware that they've struggled with boundaries, and they've struggled and they've gotten sucked into some of these dynamics before. So if this is, resonating with you, then the compassion breakout reading might be what you want to listen to. And we'll kind of get into that, and we'll see what the cards show. Highest and best messages, right? The second breakout session is humility, and humility comes from Old French humilité and Latin humilitas. And also, I found a reference to it coming from humus in Latin as well, which means earth. Now, another synonym for humility is humble. And what I find about this particular thing, so, I mean, raise your hand or just think of a moment when you've heard someone talk about themselves as being humble. Because I have, okay? I had this kid in like middle school that got up in front of the speech class and he said a bunch of things. He was trying to sell, like, it was like a speech and debate, and he was trying to sell it. And he was talking about himself, and he's like, and I'm humble, and that was the first time I had the encounter, I think, really with the word when I was younger. And I was one that, like, if I didn't really know what a word meant, but somebody was using it and it stood out to me, I would go get the dictionary, a Webster's dictionary, and I would look it up. And or I'd ask my mom, or I'd be like, what does this word mean? I was very curious about words. And that's why I love the etymology and everything of where they came from. What is that? What does it really mean? Right. And it's interesting because as an empath, I've found that there's just those people that I've witnessed have a lot of humility and are very humble, but they would never say they are. They would never go out and describe themselves that way. So, one of the things I've noticed in people over the years who maybe are pretending to have humility or humbleness, they'll like say they're humble. Maybe some people listening have heard themselves say that about, why would you need to say it? To me, humility and humbleness really comes through in actions and behaviors. It's not something we need to say. So it's just, this is my take on it. You don't have to agree with it. That's fine. We're all different. We're all having a different experience here. But really, I loved the humus root word of humility because it means earth or on the ground. I think a lot of us, when we're dealing with someone who has a lot of humility naturally, organic humility, they're just humble by nature. They are very grounded. They come across very grounded, very centered, but it's the ones that kind of talk it up where maybe they're a little bit more in their ego. There's also those moments in life. So if you found yourself being humbled, right? And I know I told a story about this recently of one of my DoorDash, where I was like all up in a frustration about trying to do a shop and deliver order, and they didn't have it, but it was the wrong and it needed to be canceled. And I was trying to connect support and everything, and then I kind of went on with my door dashing, and then I ended up getting this really amazing, like huge tip delivery, just somebody's burger and fries, and it ended up being a disabled veteran who had no legs. And I was, here I was spending 30 minutes of my morning in utter frustration about not being able to reach DoorDash and customer support. I had lost focus on what really mattered to me. And what matters to me is being in service to others in my community, and being in a healing energy so that others then can have that permission. And I apply that when I DoorDash too. Like, even though some of these people are ordering junk food and stuff, I try to make it the best I can. I say the Ho'oponopono prayer over it, and I do those things, and I leave little notes. If I have time, I write a little note wishing them a great day, because people are going through stuff, right? And so it's those kinds of actions. But I got humbled. I got humbled really big time because I was like, whoa, I'm totally focusing on something that doesn't matter. I'm getting like really drawn into that instead of just being present and with myself, even figuring out why did I get so drawn into that? Because then after you realize it, when you get those humble checks, you realize, oh gosh, why did I get so drawn into that? And it spiraled. What was really going on with me? How did I feel when I left the house this morning? Where's my mind at? Where's my heart at? Right. And it kind of requires us to really, really have that self reflection. So that could be the category that you're resonating with, or you may have seen examples of that in yourself or others, right? Humility. Humility is number 2. And then number 3, trust. Okay. And this comes up in the energy, even though these are going to be timeless. So whenever you get to this and you're listening to this breakout, these are timeless. But at the time I'm doing it, there is a calling to trust in the larger plan. It's winter time. We're trusting that spring is around the corner, right? And trust comes from the Old Norse word traust, which means help, confidence, and protection, which I mentioned earlier. And it's about making the vibrational energy situations strong and safe. And so with trusting, it's not about a blind trust. It's not about being gullible, right? And just, kind of that fool card energy of just stepping into whatever. We have no idea what we're doing, but we just do it. It's more about knowing where your boundaries are, knowing where your wounds are, and trusting yourself through that navigation. So a lot of us as adults, we may say we have trust issues. I have trust issues. And I think this is because of earlier wounding that we've had, where someone in our life, that we put our trust in, a parent, a relative, a close relative, broke our trust in one way, shape, or form, right? And it can happen in childhood with other kids. You told one kid a personal secret and then they announced it to everybody on the playground, that kind of thing, right? And these things kind of pile up. These little breaks in trust kind of pile up. And then by the time we get to adulthood, and this happens subconsciously, right? Till it kind of overflows. And then we're like, We have a trouble trusting anyone, even if our intuition is like, I feel safe here, right? So trust is like a huge theme. And then there's the trust in the greater plan in the universe, which is an even riskier thing, because it requires that we release control. So trust is going to be our third category. Okay, let's get into these readings. Let me get the timestamp. We're going to go into compassion first. So, compassion breakout session. Let's go. Let me get a little sip here of my caffeine of the day. You all are probably hearing the street work they're doing outside. They're replacing sewer pipes here. So, fun. They were blocking my driveway for a day or two, but now it's fine. It's really no big deal. They need to be replaced. I don't think these pipes have been replaced since the neighborhood was built, and now it's time. So I'm having compassion for the people doing the work out there. All right, compassion group. This is a timeless reading regarding compassion. So whenever you find this, it's meant for you. It's the best time for you. You get to just relax while I walk through the messages. As always, we're asking for the highest and best messages from the universe, from your greater beings, those of you who are listening, past, present, and future, and our collective energies of the creators on the crest. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to pull a few here. Ooh, la, la. And then I'm going to do a few clarifiers from the Hide Tarot here. I love the Hide Tarot. It kind of gives a little underground aspect. It's tarot, but with a twist. And so I like using these cards. Oh, wow. Interesting energies here for our compassion group. All right. Cards are popping out here. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We have got some mirroring going on here. We definitely have some reflections and some ways that the energies are skipping and dancing around here for compassion. I'll get to what's in the middle, but I first want to talk about the two major arcana cards in this reading for compassion. We got the High Priestess and the Sun twice. Two Sun cards and two High Priestesses cards, but they're flipped in the deck. So I pulled the High Priestess from the Wizard's Tarot, and to clarify, we got the Sun from the Hide Tarot. And then we got the Sun from the Wizard's Tarot and the High Priestess from the Hide Tarot. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's get into this. And in the middle, we got something else. We got what we got to work on, okay, in the middle here. So High Priestess and Sun. Let's look at, so this is the energy surrounding any challenges we have with compassion right now. So let me get this. Hang on. All right. So here I got this High Priestess, this one here, the blue one, and the horse, which I love as the Sun card. I love the horse depiction there. So we've got horse energy. And then over here, we've got the dog for the High Priestess, and we have a horse in the Sun energy on this card. Okay, so horses, freedom, right? I know with the landscape of our collective being as it is, right? It can be very hard sometimes to find the joy in our encounters. Sharing joyful moments with people. The Sun is a card of joy, and this is about sharing joy with others, or possibly even having compassion in moments of sorrow. So we've got kind of the mirrors going on here. That's what makes me think that. So when I think of joy coming up with the Sun, I think of sorrow coming up. And the High Priestess would indicate there is some sort of wisdom in this dynamic between joy and sorrow. I would say for many of us, this has to do with understanding and having the proper compassion with ourselves first and foremost. I feel that some people who might have been attracted to working through this compassion energy have been a little bit hard on themselves. So if you found yourselves being a little tough on yourself, or you just have this inner dialogue running at times from the mind that just says you need to be doing this, you should have done this, look at the long list of things that you have to do and what have you done, giving ourselves a little bit of a break here, because number one, we have to go with not only the seasons in nature but the seasons in our lives. And there's going to be these cycles, right? The high priestess really, she's about bringing wisdom to the situation. So, in our sorrow, which would be the opposite of joy, it would be what's hidden. It's there's lessons, there's learnings, there's freedom in the sorrow. The horse is really giving me the sense of freedom here. And in order to free ourselves, we have to be able to go through the emotional energies, right? And not, we're going to acknowledge where we are and we're going to let that be okay. And we're going to be finding our way out of it at our own pace. I think for some of you, this has to do with pressure on yourself about how quickly or slowly you're moving through something, a challenge perhaps, a challenge that might incorporate sorrow. But I would say these cards and the way they're presenting like this are encouraging us to find the wisdom in sorrow itself. Because when we think about that which must be endured as one of the definitions of compassion, that would mean we've got to endure this. We've got to go through these emotions. The high priestess comes in and says, okay, what kind of wisdom can you gain? And we've got over here, we have the dog high priestess, remaining loyal to yourself and remaining loyal to having compassion for yourself through some of your greatest challenges. Now, I do this a lot to myself, and I'll just use this as an example. Subconsciously, um, if I have to say no to something or someone, I automatically feel guilty. Isn't that weird? Does anybody else have that? Where, like, when instead of like fully being able to own my no or own my yes, like at times I feel guilty and I feel sad that I'm letting them down. Why can't I hold capacity for all of this, But it might actually be that my plate is really full and I need to be loyal to my boundaries. My plate actually might be too full to be able to say yes to someone, even if I wanted to, right? And so for me to then have that feeling of guilt arise, why? I have to start to question that. And I have to start to go back into my childhood or my past lives and think, okay, why would I feel guilty when really my capacity is such that the best way I can honor this situation is to say no, and then extend some compassion to myself as I work through that process. That's just one example. I do get, for a lot of people that may tune into this reading, it has to do with the mental energies of believing, like, or thinking, not even believing. It could be tied up into a belief. It could be tied up into a belief for some of you, but thinking that it's over. There's no energy for this. I can't do this. I cannot even love myself through this being laid out kind of energy, right? And I'll talk about that. Where the conflict comes in here. So we're talking about dynamics of joy and sorrow and loving ourselves through certain emotions. Okay. So a lot of the compassion energy that I'm picking up here has to do with compassion for the emotional process within yourself, because first we have to understand and navigate that, then being able to have compassion, empathy, sympathy, right? And empathy and sympathy are even different. So, that's a whole other, I could go into a whole other video just about that. Maybe I will someday. Whatever, allowing whatever you can have there and whatever emotions are showing up and whatever your capacity is to be okay and having compassion for that. This is the season where my tanks are empty. And so I'm going to love myself through this season the best I can. I'm going to be honest with myself about my capacity to provide any kind of emotional support for someone else, or, you know, showing up for this event or this dinner or this, work requirement, whatever it is. I mean, and for some of you who might be working in the corporate world as well, excuse me. Yeah, this is coming up for some of you that might be out there in the corporate world, or just um what do I want to say, a highly pressured work environment for you, like, to, I mean, I know so many people who did this. They would not take time off work. Like, I literally know people who would end the year with like vacation and sick days in their banks, because, and I'm getting dizzy as I'm talking about this, they were just working themselves like a corkscrew into the ground. So for some of you who have picked this, you may have had this experience with yourself where you've pushed yourself way too hard. Some of you might have done it in school as well. You might have gotten sick. It would be like back in high school, you're pushing, you're involved in all this stuff, and then you get mono and you're like laid out for a month, right? Okay. It's like that kind of energy. So I'm picking up on somebody's somebody's personal situation there, but like, that's the kind of energy, and it doesn't have to be that exact story. There may be different details for some of you, but it's the energy of going and then being laid out, but then fighting the fact that you're laid out, but you're laid out for a reason, right? And there's something to be gained there. And so it requires you extending compassionate energy toward yourself in order to do that. Now, let's show these two cards that are in the middle of this reading. We have the 10 of Swords and the Goat, the 5 of Wands. Now, the Goat, of course, Capricorn energy could be coming up there as well. But the 5 of Wands is about tension and it's about conflict. And the 10 of Swords is about death, which is transformation. But this is the phase that you just feel like nothing. Okay. This 10 of Swords is like it's over, the rock bottom. Like, I'm having trouble wrapping my mind around this period. This could be applicable for some of you who've had a loss, lost your home, lost a pet, lost a family member, lost a job, okay, where maybe and you were that person who was giving your all to that job and then you just got laid off, right? And mentally, it puts you in that, I have no idea what to do now. I have no idea where to go from here. And it's a conflicted state with this 5 of Wands, which is a more active energy of tension and conflict. I think for some of you, this would be a bit of a cautionary tale, a bit of a warning here to make sure that you give yourself the time in this to be with this energy of like, oh my gosh, I'm laid out, I'm done. Like, I'm maybe even feeling numb. For some of you, this is that I can't even like get in touch with my emotions. I'm just numbed out. And you haven't done anything. Okay. Like, I'm not talking about people who numb themselves out intentionally and are medicating. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about feeling numb. Like, just because maybe you've cried a lot and you're just at the point of like total exhaustion. And then you have that shift from like, okay, I've processed a lot of emotions. but I'm foggy. I don't know where to go from here. I'm feeling laid out. And I think what we have to remember compassion wise is if you did try to act, you'd be moving right into this 5 of Wands energy, which is conflict and tension and fighting. And so we don't want to push ourselves here. It's not the kind of you definitely don't want to be, you definitely want to take your sick day, your personal, your mental health days here. This is for those of you that tuned into this, you want to honor that. When you're down and out, give yourself the time you need. Okay? Don't try to act and then push through, that push through, oh, I'm just going to push through. I used to do this all the time in the corporate world. I'd have like a brain splitting migraine, okay, where it feels like somebody took a hammer to my head and I would pop Advil and like work through it on the computer, which you don't even want to be looking at light when you have a migraine like that. You're so sensitive. And I would just push through, not really holding a lot of compassion for myself, not really being compassionate, definitely not the energy of making my way back to joy and freedom, right? Definitely locking myself down and closing the door on the wisdom that I need to gain. Because when we have this experience where we're laid out like this, we have to be patient with ourselves. We have to extend compassion to ourselves. We have to endure what we're meant to endure, whether it's pain, sorrow, grief, anger, whatever it is, right? So that we can uncover the gifts in it. Now, I would say for those of you who have selected this because of the mirroring images that we got, 2 suns and 2 high priestesses in this reading for compassion, make sure that you are allowing yourself some support. Okay, so whether that's a therapy of some kind, or getting out for a little nature therapy, or just maybe just very simply informing a few trusted friends to maybe check in on you for the next week or whatever, right? Because when we're in this energy, we're not feeling very connected, right? Now, if you have very intuitive and empathic people around you, they're probably going to be like, hey, I'm just checking in on you. I'm thinking of you. Are you okay? That's that energy. But if you don't, or if you've kept your private energies a little more close to the vest, you might want to, if you're going to challenge yourself to reach out for support, not to push through, but to reach out and maybe let somebody bring you dinner, bring you tea, do something for you, and be okay with asking for that support in the ways that you could be supported, so that you can then begin to embody and incorporate this wisdom here and get yourself back into a joyful state where you really do feel joy from having compassion for yourself and honoring your own process. We're taught a lot of times in this society and just for eons now to just deny, compassion for ourselves. Yet the religious structures would teach you to have compassion and empathy for everyone else. But a lot of times they leave out the teachings of self compassion. But it's important for us to have this experience so that it does strengthen our ability to have compassion for others, right? So this is something, that we're joy is implied here, by the way. So if you've picked this reading, I mean, joy is implied. This is a minor arcana card. It's not a permanent situation. It may be a chapter, it may be a season you're going through, but it's not a permanent situation. Joy is implied. The wisdom will be gained. But if you're pushing through in a way that feels conflicting, I love the goat. It's very bulldozing energy. Capricorns can move earth like no other. Okay, I love it. But when it's with the 5 of Wands here, that's going against the grain. And that's where we have to stop and slow down and rewind and say, oh my gosh, right? Okay, I know what I want to do because I love doing this for this particular reading. We're going to pull three more cards for compassion here. We're going to get one from the divine journey to the divine masculine. So we'll see what masculine energies are tied up to this. We'll see what feminine energies are tied into this, and then we'll get a healing message. So let's look at the masculine energy first here. Yes. In this season or chapter where you may be having trouble extending your self compassion, or you may be feeling guilt because you can't hold compassionate space for other people right now, there's a gift. The masculine energy are saying, guess what? There's a gift coming your way. It's personal to you, right? It's to be unwrapped by you. But you won't do that if you try to push your way out quickly of these energies that you're meant to be in for some reason, right? That is part of your experience. But joy is implied once again here with this gift. It's going to unwrap and unravel something much larger for you. I think a lot of you too are emotionally strengthening. I'm getting this feeling that you're getting us like an up level in, like, we have to navigate so many different emotions and they inform us. I feel like some of you are getting an up level in your emotional energies with whatever it is you're going through here. And I think that's important. So it's like adding points to your emotional intelligence. That's what I want to say here. We don't do that by denying where we're at, though. We do that by acknowledging and offering compassion to the emotional energies we're with, even if they don't feel good. We ask for support and we just take our little baby steps until we get where we want to be. And here we have the feminine energy is warrior. I love this card. Sacred mix of masculine and feminine energy, strength, determination, courage, but also receptivity and spirituality. So just look at this image. So it's honestly very interesting. The masculine energy is showing something more receptive. The feminine energy is showing something more active. So you may want to work with this when it comes to compassion. I think she's about extending compassion to yourself and knowing that there's wisdom in that with those two high priestesses that come up. And then the masculine energy again says joy is implied. There are gifts here. They will be unwrapped at the time of your choosing as you're acknowledging and moving through these energies. Where we run into trouble is when we get stuck. When we get stuck, not able to extend compassion to ourselves or others, it becomes a very rigid, kind of feeling. Ooh, and for our healing card, we got nature. I love this. This came up in the collective reading, but I also think that it has a lot of merit here. And this is just someone out in the woods sitting on a log with some vines and just looking at a tree and having some communion with nature, really. Right? So maybe some of you do need, as much as I've encouraged you to ask for support, maybe a few of you need to find your support in nature, right? Going out there and really being. Yeah, nature keeps showing up. You're right, Jen. I feel like everything I've done lately, like nature keeps showing up. I mean, I'm a fan of nature, okay? I'm a fan, but you're right. It's more than just me, okay? It's you all. It's your greater beings. It's a collective message from the universe saying this is important. Wow. So some really interesting dynamics going on in the compassion reading. The way that those two decks mirrored one another with the sun and the high priestess, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. I would say when we have those major arcana cards, it would indicate an increased importance on really spending time with this energy and becoming more aware of it and how it affects you and how you're working your way through it. So that's compassion. Okay, moving on to humility. Okay, another sip. Like you guys, I got the wolf out. This is my daughter's mug. I borrowed it because she loves like Wednesday Addams and all that stuff. Okay. All right. Clearing these decks of the previous energy. This is our group humility, synonym humble. And remember, I said the root word of humility was humus, earth, and on the ground. All right. I really love that depiction of it there because to me, again, like humility and humbleness, having that humble nature is unspoken. So we'll see. We'll see here what's going on. Let's get 3 cards from the Wizard's Tarot. Ooh, ooh. I love when I have this moment to look at the cards before I show you. It's like, oh my, what is this little story unfolding here? Okay. And last but not least, okay. All right. Whew. Okay. So humility and humbleness. We're going to talk about being on the ground, right? This is behaviors and actions that a person just carries in their character, but it also has humbleness and humility also has that egoic side where it's like, the white knight in shining armor. Those of you ladies, the rescuing is coming up for some of you. Like if you've ever had that feeling, oh, I wish somebody would just rescue me out of this situation. Okay. Men can have that feeling too, but I'm getting it particularly for the feminine here. We do have a King of Pentacles here. So we're definitely tuning into that humus, that earth energy of being on the ground. Coming through in the mastery of how to live this. This, again, it's not about saying I'm humble or I've got a lot of humility. That's more of like an egoic kind of brag. This is more to do with actualizing humbleness in your life so that your actions and the way you step forward are in alignment here. And we've got the Lover's card, the glove. It fits like a glove. All right. We've got the Lover's card here. So this could be the type of qualities and characteristics that some of you might be manifesting in attracting in masculine energy, or even like a job. You want a job that's a very good match for you, that you have that good feeling about, right? That you feel like it will be fair, that you're not going to be dealing with someone whose ego is run wild, right? So it could be a job, but this also could be a characteristic, maybe that some of you I get have left out of what you want in a partner. You want them to be embodied in the actions of being able to be humble and have humility for situations, right? So some of you yourself might be having this little dance in your own ego. The Lover's card, in the traditional tarot, it does show the masculine and feminine, and it kind of mirrors like the Devil card a little bit, which has also come up here in this reading. So very interesting that we've got this depiction. Like you're looking for something that fits for you, whether it be a job, an income, or a person. This could be a person for you. And for many of you, I just feel like you've left this quality out. It's because it is a more unspoken quality. Like when you're meeting someone, it's like humbleness and humility comes along with characteristics like this would be somebody who's willing to learn, who might disagree with you, but they enjoy listening to your opinion. Okay. So it not be somebody who shuts you down. So some of you might be dealing with somebody who has a little of these shadow aspects, or you have, and it's left a bad taste in your mouth. And you're like, I don't want to do that again. I want somebody who naturally embodies, this curiosity, because we got the Page of Pentacles here, of learning about me without over talking me, overstepping me, trying to prove me wrong, right? Those kind of shadow aspects of humbleness and humility. This is also what we're focusing on. So, like I used the story when I was explaining the breakout sessions about how I was humbled one day when I got all wrapped up in a stressful, poor customer service situation. And that's a whole other topic, too. Customer service is like, meh, now, it used to be so much better. And now it's becoming less important, at least in some realms here, right? In some categories. So, I was humbled by being able to deliver to, and this is my bruise from Great Wolf Lodge, y'all. I fell. Isn't that gross? Yeah, that was embarrassing. I was with my kids and I'm like, let's go up there. No, shouldn't have gone up there because as I was coming back down the stairs, boom, got humbled. Still haven't figured out how I think sometimes as we age, we think we have the agility and balance and everything that we had before, and maybe things are different and we need to be a little more mindful about where our handholds are and where our footholds are on things, right? So that's coming up. I showed my bruise there for a reason. Some of you may have been a little bruised by, or had your ego a little bruised when maybe you weren't so humble, right, in the past, or you didn't have that humility, or there was some sort of injury or something there, right? So if we can get curious about this quality, like, and not force it, but just be curious about it, observe it, play with it a little, like how she's playing with it. And if you're out there, if you're dating or you're manifesting someone in, or you're working on a relationship, this humble nature in someone might be more important to you than you've considered before. With the Page of Pentacles, we have the Death card and the statue in this particular deck. I love the depictions. Again, this gives me more the sensation of, we're going to be present with this energy. We're going to start to observe it in ourselves and others. We're going to look for the behaviors, not what the potentials we feel, but what is someone really displaying, right? This would be also for some of you, this is kind of coming up. Some of you have some wounding around being embarrassed or having an embarrassing moment in the past. This is some of the hardest energy. I will say, I have this too. Moments where I misstepped and I was embarrassed, or people laughed at me, and it was at a vulnerable time where, I definitely wasn't laughing at myself. It definitely was a misstep or a mistake or some ill chosen words, or, it got taken out of context and resulted in an embarrassment. I think the embarrassment energy, if it goes unhealed, it has the potential to have us a little bit um, trapped, cemented in, right, with the statue here. And it kind of does result in that little death, right? That fear of feeling embarrassed again. It's like a little death, right? And it's something that maybe we should go into. It's hard to recall those moments because of the way you felt. But if you can work with this within yourself and just humble yourself a little, have a little humility, tell the ego, hey, it's okay. Guess what? It's okay for you to have made mistakes. Because the Death card's about transformation. So maybe it's about transforming some of the acceptance of your mistakes in the past. And, this is kind of overlapping a little bit with the energy that I did in the previous reading for compassion. Having a little compassion toward these energies, being curious about them, First of all, a lot of us were, when we got embarrassed, we were at ages, our brains were still forming. We were trying to figure out this world. We have to apply a little grace for ourselves here. So it's very interesting getting curious about the behaviors and the actions of ourselves and others when it comes to embodying the energy of being humble, because it's less talking about it and it's more being in that energy. And, I think online, I want to mention too, online, it gets a little nasty. Gets a little nasty online, right? Oh, this is my opinion. Oh, 500 comments about I disagree or I agree with you. Oh, this many likes. Oh, right? Not necessarily a natural, humbling, humility kind of energy, right? It's more of a cutthroat kind of thing. So for some of us, we're working past transforming that or getting sucked into that and getting frozen with our attention on that all of the time, right? So some real wisdom coming up here. Okay, now also we got the devil card. Again, this is Capricorn energy coming up. Capricorn energy came up in the compassion reading too, a little bit there in a different package, but we do have some overlap there, so some of you might want to listen to both. And in this particular vibe, in this particular reading, I feel that these are energies of control that are going to be overcome or that we're working on overcoming. And the reason I say we're working on overcoming that is because we got the clover, the wheel of fortune. So whatever synapses in our brains when we were children and we were, humbled and that's connected to embarrassment in front of our peers or our peer group or wherever, our family, we were made fun of, whatever it was for something we said or did. There is a changing energy here in our relationship to that. All right. So there's an acceptance that that's what we went through. And yes, I was embarrassed on the playground or wherever it was out in front on stage. I mean, think about people who got up for talent shows and people laughed at them. And, it's that kind of energy. We're starting to go in that we went through it. So we can't try to control that situation. It's already happened, right? Where we do have power and control is in our present moment. And we can be with that and we can say, okay, that happened, but what has it taught me? And I think sometimes as readers, we miss that the devil card has a lot to do with lessons and that something is being taught. It tends to be those times where we feel that suffering or we feel that pain or that embarrassment or we get humbled. It seems to be those moments that stick with us and that give us the greatest lessons. So with the four-leaf clover coming in, this is looking very fortunate that those of you who have tuned into this, like you're like, this is the one I need to listen to, that you're going to feel better because you're actually going to begin to understand the gifts and how you were strengthened as a person throughout your life because of that experience. Now, others of you, you're entering into the times of your lives where you don't give a flying fuck. To hell with it, right? It means that you've released some of this control or letting this control you. These times where you were humbled or you misstepped, right? You're letting that go and you're saying, that's what makes me human. I'm having a human experience here. So I'm going to let that be a part of it. It shaped who I am today. I'm going to let that be okay and I'm going to put my best out there. I'm going to start to embody this energy because I am now aware of what it really means and the gift that it gave me. Wow. Okay, that's powerful. We're going to get some masculine energy to see where the masculine energies are at with this humbleness and humility. We're going to get some feminine energy and then a healing card. So For those of you who have joined and listening in, I will have timestamps on the replay. So if you came in at, mid reading or something like that, do not worry. I would love for you to stay on and keep listening because I'm getting ready to get into another reading on trust, which is going to be amazing. But please feel free to revisit and come back as well if you missed the first part. Okay. Let's get the feminine energy. I want to get both here for this one before I show the masculine energy here. Oh, how cool is this? I love how the masculine and feminine work together to really show us what's going on. The masculine energy shows trapped, right? Because in these times where we are a prisoner to our ego, right? Or our ego is bruised, or it just hurts too much to go into the embarrassment that we felt and all the emotions that resulted as a part of that. You want to get angry, you want to yell, you want to cry, you want to act out in whatever way. The masculine energy, it slows us down from maybe taking risks in our life, right? So the masculine energy is saying, hey, okay, let's acknowledge that in these moments where we were humbled, we felt trapped, where we had to learn humility, we felt trapped. A lot of childhood stuff coming up in this reading too, for those of you who tuned into this. The feminine energy, however, shows us detached, not needing things to work out a certain way, not needing someone to think a certain way about us, not surrounding ourselves with people who are my way or the highway kind of people. This is going with the flow. Let's smell the roses. And maybe that moment that we encountered when we were younger, it hurt and it felt bad and we were embarrassed and we got humbled publicly, right? A lot of you, I feel like it was in front of other people that some of this wounding may have happened, right? Detaching yourself from the energy of the moment because you are now embodying the lesson, and that is to stay with yourself and to love yourself and to enjoy the world, the natural world and what it has to offer, to turn to that, to stop and smell the roses, to give yourself grace, to observe the energy and the actions that result in humble characters, in people who embody humility. Remember, I said some of you are trying to attract in friends or partnerships like that. We've got to have this little bit of attachment for exactly how it looks as well. So the feminine is saying, go more with the flow here. So we've got trapped and detached. Those are the energies we're working with, which are quite opposite energies. But think about all the ground you're covering as you work with those opposite energies and you come back into your heart and you're giving yourself grace, you're giving yourself forgiveness. You're not caring anymore if people are going to laugh at you. You're going to go out there and do your thing anyway, and you're going to bring your best to the table with the Wheel of Fortune there. It's turning the pain into the wisdom, which is beautiful. Let's get a healing card here. Oh, interesting. We've got truth and integrity, which I'm getting ready to go into the truth breakout reading, but we got truth and integrity for humbleness and humility. And I think this goes back to making sure that you are taking time, especially if you're getting to know new people or a new person, to observe their behavior. They won't need to brag to you that they're humble. They will just show it. It will be an integral part of their nature. They will be in that integrity with that. They won't necessarily have to speak it. They will just hold the energy. That's a big theme in this particular reading, is that these behaviors, whether in yourself or another, it's about embodiment and holding those energies. And then the behaviors and actions are aligned. They don't need to be said, oh, I'm so humble, you know. You don't need to say that. It comes through in your actions and behaviors, right? So if you ever caught yourself saying that, that's probably your ego speaking. And we love your ego. Okay. It's okay. We're going to love the ego. Sometimes we have to love it back into its place, though, right? With truth and integrity of being in true alignment here. All right. Wow. I had to take deep breaths here. More powerful energies definitely coming through there for humbleness and humility, and definitely aligned with the energies that are going on. It's so interesting too how these different themes that I've chosen for the breakout sessions do overlap as well. They have some of the same threads going on. So keep that in mind. Okay, let's get a timestamp. We're going to move into our trust group here. Trust group. And I'll just read real quick. Kimberly says, I appreciate you sharing the etymology. Yes, the etymology. It's very fascinating. And you can do this too with other words. Maybe you know the definition and you know in general what it means, but going into the etymology may uncover something different. So trust, we talked about this word's etymology coming from Old Norse, traust, meaning help, confidence, and protection, meaning making safe and strong. Knowing where our wounds are with trust is important, because I am picking up, this would be those of us that may say, I've got trust issues, right? Sorry, I dropped a card here. Hang on. Put that back up and go in the mix there. All right. So if you found yourself saying, I have trust issues, it's hard for me to trust people, there's probably wounding there. But we're going to see what the cards are pointing to here. Okay. Woo. Woo, woo, woo. And we're going to get clarifiers with the Hide Tarot for this group. Oh, cards are flying out again here. Oh, nice. Okay. Okay, so trust. Let's talk about trust. Okay. The first cards that come up when we're talking about trust are the Three of Cups and the Pearl, the Ace of Pentacles here. This tells me that those of you who are attracted to this reading, there's a starting out here. You're starting a new cycle with this Pearl, with this Ace of Pentacles here. And it has to do with community, with this Three of Cups. It has to do with how you feel about the people around you. I do sense some wounding. I think for some of you, there's past life wounding here that comes into play with community and competition. There's some competition wounds there, like everybody's going for this one person or one thing, right? And there was a lot of backstabbing and conniving and one-upmanship and all that sneaky kind of energy. For some of you, it could be this lifetime related. You may have experienced this in like very, very much like the high school kind of gossipy kind of feeling, the college sorority house kind of dynamic kind of feeling, or fraternity house, right? If you're a guy, like whatever you might have experienced there, or just with a group of friends, so-called friends. So some of you have been through the ringer on this, and for you to trust and open up to, especially community and friendships, you're kind of at the beginning. Now, this pearl is definitely kind of a shadowy pearl. We're kind of seeing almost what looks like an X-ray image here of this. What a fascinating card. I love the depictions on this card. But this means you're getting ready to make a move with this. Now, it could be a movement toward healing something from your past. It could be a movement toward actually going out with a new group. Some of you may be joining like a meetup group, or you got on a Facebook group that you're going to be a part of, or something like that. And as we know, like the pearl is kind of hidden, right, in the oyster or whatever, and there's kind of this protective shell that has to be pried off to reveal the beauty. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, and some of you are prying off that shell because I was like burping. Energy is moving here, okay? And it's nerve-wracking at times because there is kind of this trust that you're placing, but I also feel like some of you intuitively already know. This card would be also a card of trusting your intuition. So, some of you, yes, you're going into a new group. No, not everybody there will be your highest and best buddy, BFF forever, but your intuition will guide you to the right person or people within the group. Okay. But it's definitely coming together in some sort of community or community situation. So that takes trust, that takes vulnerability, right? When I do my webinars and when I do group session type things, usually I do those on Zoom if it's online. And, I do give people the option. I prefer they come on camera and be more vulnerable, but not everybody's quite ready for that, right? So that might be a thing too, where maybe you practice in some virtual sessions with this before you go out in person, so you can have that little bit of a cushion there that might feel safer for some of you because you can always just like drop off the call, or you don't have to explain yourself, right? You can just kind of check it out and see how it goes. So there's something beautiful here. You want to protect the sanctity of your relationships and friendships, but yet you're ready to expand and be around more like-minded, like-hearted people. And the other reason I said your intuition will guide you, you got the high priestess. So high priestess came up twice, right, in our compassion reading as well. But here we have just that deep, innate trust in yourself. You've got the wisdom, your intuition is online, you're in a good, balanced place. Now, the high priestess still guards. She guards the veil the doorway that goes to the Garden of Eden, right? So there's still a little bit of a guarded energy here, and that's okay. We have layers of wounding that we're working through, we have layers of healing to be done. Just take it slow and steady and trust your intuition. We also have the moss here in the Hyde Tarot deck, and it's depicted as this jar with, like, I guess, moss growing in there. And it's the Four of Swords, which is our healing card, right? So here's the thing, when you're coming into new communities and new groups, you want to be looking for the ways that some healthy boundaries and some healthy stability has been set up in those groups, right? Whether it's a group of friends, a new spiritual community, whatever it might be. We want some clear defining factors to be present there. That will help. That will help put the mind, the Four of Swords, swords are connected to the mind at ease, and it will help with healing as far as you will feel okay being who you are in that group or in the presence of the people that you're with. Okay, you get to be who you are, and you get to be wounded and not taken advantage of. That's important for some of you. Some of you have really been taken advantage of in the past or taken for granted. That's another one, taken for granted. Some of you very much taken for granted. And typically when those kinds of things happened, it's usually because of someone else's lack of confidence, not necessarily something that you did wrong, right? But being a spiritual being, you might be thinking you did something wrong, and you want to make sure that you're making the right steps. But also knowing that there are times in life where we go through things, the competition and all the stuff that comes with it, the judgment, the gossiping and all that. And it really, when it comes down to it, it has nothing to do with us. It's other people's projections running amok. And I think some of you have dealt with that. I think some of you are still healing that. That's still under the surface here with this moss card. And it doesn't really feel like, you know how moss, it's like really, it'll stick to something, but it's also soft and you can kind of pull it up. I think some of you are having that experience with this energy where you're really pulling it up and you're learning, okay, that was that, and that was other people's projections. I no longer have to let that mask me or prevent me from these new situations. Why? Because I can trust myself here. And therefore, some of that, the boundaries, the expectations when you're with a group, even so much as like feeling safe around like somebody, like if somebody like makes plans with you and then like they constantly, let's say constantly cancel. Okay, it's okay to cancel here and there, sometimes things come up, but like you just get that vibe. You're like, okay, well, I just won't invest my energy in that anymore. I'll leave the ball in their court. Leave the ball in their court. Some of you need to leave the ball in these other people's courts, and that will show their true colors. That will show whether they really want to come together. Now, there's a lot of people just get wrapped up in their own lives or they don't communicate their capacity quite well. So there can be those things, but I feel like you're able to trust yourself a lot more and you're removing some of that maybe competitive slash backslap stabbing kind of projection energy that might have kind of got on your energy field from the past. I don't feel like it's got a big hold though. It doesn't feel really hard and spiky and frozen. It feels like just something you can pull off. Hmm. And the high priestess then, behind her is the doorway to the Garden of Eden or to the place where the Empress sits. So we have the Empress energy coming through. Again, this is the go with the flow. This is the remaining open. Allow yourself to receive, because if you block everybody out all the time, people will start attempting to give, right? They'll stop attempting to give. Did I say start? I'm so in this energy. They'll stop attempting to give if you're closed off to receiving. For some of you, I really want you to practice accepting compliments. Okay? Some of you, and this is tricky, but some of you are brushing off compliments when they're given to you. And I want you to really begin accepting compliments. And also, guess what? When you're complimented, it's not a requirement that you have to compliment back. You can just accept the compliment that you're given. There'll be another time and space. So don't feel that anytime you feel that pressure, it kind of takes you out of the flow and the true reception of the compliment you're being given. And that's what the Empress wants you to remember here. And what's really beautiful is we have the progression from the High Priestess to the Empress here. So some of you are definitely going to be building trust in someone or a group of people. And this comes from trusting yourself first, which is really cool. To clarify the Empress, we got the starfish, the Two of Pentacles. So remember how we started off with the one, the ace, the pearl? The starfish is actually coming up. They're showing up. Okay, so here we had the pearl that was kind of hidden in the oyster shell, and we have to kind of pry through that. We're kind of working on our own healing, and we're moving into the energy of showing up. In what? In truth. We're showing up in truth, and we'll attract truth and trust in others by showing up in truth ourselves. But this is a more present energy. Now, does it still have an element of not 100% in? Maybe sometimes I'm in, sometimes I'm out. Yes. But remember, we're on a journey here. We're exploring, and sometimes you kind of go down a dead end and you have to back up to the road and continue on your journey, right? Let that be okay. You might start getting to know somebody, right? And your intuition's like, this is good. Then you get a little deeper and you realize, oh, okay, there's a dynamic here that I don't feel good about. You can reposition yourself. You can go back into the ocean and continue your journey. There is that feeling here for some of you that I think you take your relationships so seriously, which is a good thing when you have relationships close to you, but you take them seriously to the point where you've stuck around or kept with people or situations or even job environments in the past, because we do have the pinnacles coming up here, or settled for a wage that wasn't your true value. You've stuck around those in the past instead of releasing yourself back into receiving something greater. And the universe is definitely moving you. It's slow. It's a slow progression here. We're going, step by step, but it's moving you into accepting something greater and more grand for yourself when it comes to relationships here with the cups energy, with your relationship to yourself, with your intuition online, and then in the practical world and how that's expressing. So I like this. It feels good. It feels natural. It does not feel like you're putting extra pressure on yourself. Like I kind of felt that pressure in the humble humility reading. I don't feel that. I feel like you are actually opening up and you're stepping out on this new path, and you're definitely spending time with your intuition, right? We're getting the divine masculine and feminine energies for our trust group here. And then we'll pull a healing card to close it off, and we'll do our final. Can you believe it's almost been 2 hours? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, so the masculine energies. Now, this is what I was talking about, shows a crossroads. And that's that Two of Pentacles kind of feeling. So the masculine energy is saying, do I go this way or that? And maybe you start going down one road and you're like, this wasn't the right one. I got to back myself up and go down the other one, Maybe I start meeting people and I'm going off on this road here and it's looking sunny and bright. And then I realize, oh, I need to do some healing. So I might need to have some boundaries and take some more time to myself. Communication would be important here, but it's also communication with your intuition to you and how that channel is flowing. So it's okay to change directions. It's okay to pause at the crossroads, do an intuition check-in, right? Since the masculine energy is very active, this would mean taking an action. It may be a pause to check in with your intuition. And then the feminine energy says divine feminine, the sacred feminine's journey back to herself. So anytime this comes up, whether you're masculine working with trust issues or feminine, the divine feminine, that positive charge, that the path of the darkness can reveal many things that bring us back to ourselves, back to our intuitive nature. And this is that journey. So do not hesitate to put your social situations and things on pause if you need to. And even more so than that, as you're getting into them, make sure that boundaries and expectations and those kinds of things are clear, right? And that just might take communication. I mean, we can always communicate more. I always feel like we can communicate more clearly or better. And that erring on the side of over communicating is probably better than under communicating, right? So there may be an issue of communication here, and just clarifying. And asking questions. I do get asking questions too, to yourself, like asking, like, how does this feel to me when I'm in with this group of people? Or do I feel supported? Some of you are manifesting here with our healing card. We got support. You're manifesting a more supportive community, a more supportive container for you. Now, a lot of this collectively was kind of, it's like a tower moment happened in 2020, and then all the isolation and everything, and people have had to work their way back out to being around other people. right? And so some of our desires around that may have changed. And we're being more selective because we want to form these supportive communities here. We want to be in these containers where ourselves and others can feel supported. And maybe what I'm getting from this card is on the platform of knowledge, wisdom, and intuition, and that spiritual similarities, spiritual curiosity going on about the universe. So some of you could be a very like a wisdom sharing kind of group that you're looking for, that kind of support. Also, if we think about the journey back to the feminine energy that came up here, that can be connected to the womb and healing the womb and having support, that womb wisdom, having support for your femininity and what the space that you're holding inside yourself for yourself. As within, as without. That's how we would attract in a more trusted community around us. And again, I'll kind of speak to this does not have to be fast. Let's take our time in progressing through this, right? There's a lot of scams and cults and all that crap out there too. So we just want to take it step by step. It doesn't have to be, we just have to join in. And if you feel called to join in and dive into something, by all means, follow that momentum. But if it's really warming up to trusting people, I feel like for most of you, this is more of like an inner circle. Like you're looking to strengthen your inner circle and you want to come deeper into those energies and you want to be more selective, right? So maybe take a little time with that. Okay. Very good. Let's do a little bit of closing musings here. So I will be live here on my channel on Monday night. So instead of Sunday, because it's the Super Bowl and there's all kinds of stuff going on, especially in my neck of the woods. I'm going to move it to Monday night. So Monday night, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, Monday the 10th from 7 to 8 p.m. I'll be live here on the channel, and that's where I answer personal questions. So you can come on and get a mini reading, and it's really fun. And we've got a lot of people that show up and asking really good questions too. So if you're not sure what to ask, you can come and kind of see, or you can just ask for the highest and best general message for yourself. But people are getting really creative with how they're asking the questions, which I find fascinating because it really enhances the experience of the readings. And this is a community that we're forming where we can come together and celebrate our interest in tarot and community and just having that hour of just like kindred spirit feeling, right? It's a really beautiful community that's coming together. I know some of you that are on there too. So Monday night, this time, I usually do that every 2 weeks. I'll likely switch back to Sunday after this Monday night, but then it'll be 2 weeks from then. So just tune in. You'll see me. You'll see me come live. And also, if you follow me on Instagram, just make sure you watch my stories there. I do have a tarot special going on right now. So pop over to Instagram, or it's on Facebook too, and you can DM me there. That's where I run my specials. And I've got a special running on a 30-minute pre-recorded tarot reading for a special price through the 15th of February. So if you're catching this before the 15th of February, 2025, I know some of these messages are timeless, but that is the limit for the special this go around. It's a great deal. I spend 30 minutes going deep into your question or theme, and then you get sent the recording, and people really enjoy that. And it's a great price too. So check that out. And also, the February monthly readings are all posted now. So if you didn't catch your signs February monthly reading on my channel, be sure to go to the playlist for your sign and you'll be able to catch it there. Or it will probably be in the most recent videos because I've just laid those out. And tomorrow will be a whole fresh set of the next 10-day readings for each sign as well. So we got a lot of cool things coming down the pipe. I want to thank you all so much for being here. I have so much gratitude for you. And whether I know you're here or not, or you drop in another time or comment, thank you again. I would appreciate likes on the video. If you know someone who might enjoy this content, have them subscribe and come on next time, okay? All right, I hope everybody has a lovely evening, weekend, day, night, whenever you catch this. Take care.